How do you define a phase in history? For example, how one starts and another begins. Do they overlap?
Phases in history definitely overlap because, what the funny part is when you look at history, eras are generally determined after they've occurred. Historians will look back and say that there are differences between the time periods, but at the time you don't realize that you're moving from one to another. No one called the Renaissance in the 14 and 1500s. It wasn't until the 1800s when they looked back and they saw the shift from the Middle Ages in terms of changes in social structure, changes in economics, changes in art and culture, that they said, wow, that was a really different thing than what happened in the Middle Ages. And then after the Renaissance ends, they say, okay, it transitioned into a different phase. So at the time, you don't even know. We could be shifting phases right now, and we just don't know it.
Does the historical era apply to all of the world?
Well, that's a great question. I always use this analogy when I talk about the Middle Ages, because phases are relative to everyone. When people talk about the Middle Ages, when we use the term medieval, for example, we're only talking about Europe, because we're talking about it's the period between the ancient and the modern, right? Because everything before 500, Greco-Roman, for example, that's ancient. Everything after approximately 1500 and the Renaissance is modern European history. But it's the middle. But in China, they don't consider 500 to 1500 the middle. In North America, they don't consider it the middle. It's only Europeans that consider it the middle. For example, I'm 37 years old. And if the middle of my life would be the years from when I'm 13 to 24, right? But you guys are 16, so the middle of your life is when you're 5 to 10. So everything is relative to different groups.